Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Bobby, and today we've got a very special hands-on with you. Now, at the time of this recording, we have limited information on these phones, but as more information comes about, especially on the launch day, the day you're watching this video, we will input that information in our description below this video. Anyway, let's talk about our first impressions of the all-new Huawei P30 and P30 Pro. First and foremost, let's talk about what's new in the P30 and P30 Pro. I'm going to concentrate more on the P30 Pro because that has some of the newer technology into it, but a lot of this will translate over to the P30 and any differences I'll mention throughout this video. Okay, now for the P30 Pro, you're going to see that a lot of the design influence from the Mate 20 series is now over into this phone. You still have that 19.5:9 aspect ratio on the display. That still comes over to this. But the notch has changed now. That notch is smaller. We're calling it a micro notch because it just has a little camera in the middle of it and it really doesn't get in your way whatsoever. And depending on the wallpaper that you have on your display, you won't even notice it. Also, you'll still see that it has the curved glass on the front and back of it, but there's something different with the aluminum frame that I actually enjoy on the design is that it's flat on the top and bottom of the phone, which allows you, if you're holding it in landscape, to actually get better grip. So instead of it feeling slippery, you actually have more solid grip if you're playing games or watching movies or videos, what have you. So I do applaud that design change. Now, let's talk about something different, colors. Huawei's been known to create some amazing colors. Now with the P20 back in the day, I'm gonna pick up this phone just to kind of give you an example here, and this is on the P30. When the P20 was announced back in the day, the color that got everybody excited was what they called Twilight, right? Now, Huawei has enhanced that Twilight version, and now they're calling it Aurora, and it is now on the P30 Pro and the P30 that I have here. And if you can tell, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I love that you've got this sort of aqua blue and it goes into blue and a purple. It's just stunning. Looks like the Northern Lights. However, there's some other colors in the mix. Let's talk about the black one I have here. Now, this is not necessarily black. Now, remember last year with the P20 Pro, there was the Porsche design version, the Mate RS, right? Beautiful phone. We have that in our offices at Tech 360. It's one of our favorite phones of last year. But the color they had on that was a kind of a black chrome. It was beautiful. That color is now on the P30 Pro. So for those of you who love that color but weren't able to get it because of the price point, you now can get it on this. However, two new colors we announced. Now, one of them we do not have with us, which we'll talk about in just a second, but one that I love and I didn't think I was going to be a fan of is what they're calling breathing crystal. You're like, is this some new technology? No. What it is basically this iridescent sort of white, pearlish white with purple and blue in it. And if you're seeing this, let's say you went to Huawei's website when the phones were announced, you're going, I'm not too sure of that color. Let me tell you, on all these colors, you need to see them in person. In some light, it will look more white, and some it'll look a little bit more blue, purplish. I'm gonna say a lot of guys, including myself, will like this color. You know, women as well. I think everyone's gonna like this color. It's beautiful. And then there is another color which we don't have here, which you have seen in the announcement, which we are hoping we get, and that's called Amber Sunrise. It's like that fire-breathing orange, that sunrise, that orangish reddish light that comes from, you know, when you're on the beach and you see that sun come up. That looks amazing. Now, Huawei's watching this video and they're watching all your comments. If you want that color to come to Singapore, leave it in the comment section below. Because if they hear enough requests from you guys, they'll bring it here. As of right now, the colors that are coming are Aurora, the black, and the breathing crystal. So there we have it. But we're hoping for Amber Sunrise. Anyway, enough about the colors. Let's talk about some of the internals on the phone. Talking about the display, as I mentioned, 19.5:9. FHD Plus display. Carried over from the Mate 20 series, it is beautiful. Got the Kirin 980 processor, as they touted the world's first 7nm processor. That is in the phone as well. 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of onboard storage for the P30 Pro, and you can upgrade that to 512 with the nano memory card from Huawei, the 256 gigabyte nano memory card. Then you got a 4200 milliamp battery inside of this, reverse wireless charging, which is faster now. And you also have got that supercharging capacity, that 40-watt charger inside the box. So you can charge this from 0 to 70% in relatively 30 minutes. So you're good on all ends of that. But you're not here to talk about all that fun stuff. You want to see what else is new, right? That sounds the same as before. Okay, let's talk about something new. To do that, I'm going to kind of give you a demonstration here. Now, looking at this phone here, you're probably going, well, wait a second. There's no speaker at the top. How can I listen to phone calls? The speaker is underneath the display. This is something very unique. I've never seen on a phone thus far that Huawei is doing. And you know, when you go to a movie theater and you're watching a movie, a lot of the speakers are behind the screen. And there are certain television manufacturers out there that do this as well. Huawei has brought that technology into the P30 Pro. So the speaker is behind the display. That's right, so when you put up here, you're gonna hear the vibrations of the sound are gonna come through this, and it sounds clear. It sounds like a speaker. Honestly, you're not going to notice a difference. It's really quite unique, and I have a feeling we're gonna see this in other devices as they come out to the market, but we can say that this is the first one we've seen, and it's from Huawei on the P30 Pro. Now, we've talked about that. But what about the cameras? Because the P series is all about photography, right? Well, Huawei's brought 4 cameras into the mix now, and they're really kind of doing something interesting with this phone, which we've heard this terminology, computational photography, over the past year plus, and I think Huawei's really pushing that to the next generation. They have 4 cameras in this. Now they have the Ultrawide, which is at 20 megapixels, f2.2 aperture. A standard lens is 40 megapixels at f1.6 aperture. You have a telephoto lens at 8 megapixels, and that time-of-flight camera that really is going to give you a much more realistic bokeh and depth of field than you weren't able to get before in other camera sensors out there. Because normally when you would see this bokeh effect or this depth of field effect, it was just basically a cutout and the rest of it was blurred in the background. But if you're shooting someone on an angle like this, and you know this if you're in photography, you focus on this eye. Now, depending on how fast the lens is, your nose and this eye would actually be a little bit blurred out. But on a lot of camera phones, the whole face would be sharp and the rest would be blurred out. Look a little bit toyish. Now with this time-of-flight camera on this, it's actually gonna get you that much more gradient look to your photos. But something else about this phone which is unique, they are implementing yellow into the camera sensor on this. So what you're getting is red, yellow, blue, yellow. Adding that yellow color will give you better, much more lower light capabilities when you're taking photos. And they're really touting the night photography on this to be much better than on the P20 Pro and on the Mate series. In our full review, we will put it through its paces, but based on the shots we have seen, it is quite impressive. Now, talking about a new feature as well on the camera is a Periscope feature. Now, this is like zoom on steroids. Now, there's 5x optical zoom in this camera. There's 10x hybrid zoom. And there's a maximum 50 times digital zoom. Okay, it's not going to be the same as if you had a $10,000 telephoto lens with your mirrorless or DSLR system. No, it's not going to be the same. It's digital zoom, but you are able to make out what the image is. Now, there's optical image stabilization and AI image stabilization into this. So there's a combination of both. But when you're at 50 times zoom, you really need to have steady hands. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I tested it out, but it works. It does work. And it's safe to say that's an industry first. We've never seen this on a smartphone camera before. So again, how you'll use it in your daily life is up to you, but this is one of the new features that Huawei is touting. And of course, with the partnership with Leica, I can safely say your pocket camera is not going to get as much use as it once did. So enough with photography, let's talk a little bit about video. Now, the video functionality from the Mate 20 Pro was already really good. You had that real-time bokeh effect on it, you had stabilization in the video, but now we've got better low-light performance in video in the P30 Pro. And that's all thanks to that new sensor. So it does look pretty impressive. So we'll give you our thoughts in the full review. But let's talk about the front camera for a moment, because that's been beefed up as well. I believe the last one was 20 megapixels, if I'm not mistaken. This one is 32 megapixels for your selfie camera with HDR built into this. So you've got, at 32 megapixels, you're going to have a very detailed face. There's beauty mode, don't worry. So if you're worried about showing off any flaws, Huawei Huawei's got you covered on that, but 32 megapixels for the front-facing camera. And you can also do face unlock as well. All right, so we've gone over the P30 Pro. Let's talk a little bit about the P30 for a moment, just in case you want maybe a smaller device or maybe you don't need a time-of-flight camera. Well, there are some differences to it. First, it's a 6.1-inch FHD Plus display. Now, you'll notice one thing that's very apparent on the P30 versus the Pro is that the display is not curved. It's pretty much flat, which if you prefer a flat display, you will like the P30. Also on the back of it, there are 3 cameras instead of 4. As I mentioned, the time-of-flight camera is not there. And the wide-angle camera is not 20 megapixels like the Pro version. It is 16 megapixels at f2.2. Also, battery on this is 3,650 milliamps versus 4,200 milliamp battery on this. Charging wattage is around 22.5 versus 40 watts on the P30 Pro. And it's got a headphone jack. Huawei's brought the headphone jack back for the P30. So if you have wired headphones still, you're one of the few that have them. There you go. Overall, though, I gotta say the P30 Pro is an impressive device. This is just our initial hands-on impression of the phones. Love the colors. It feels ergonomic in the hand. Love the new technology in the cameras. I like the fact that we have a speaker behind the display now. That's kind of cool. And great battery life as always. I mean, if you liked it on the Mate 20 Pro, you're gonna love it here. And I want Amber Sunrise. Huawei, bring it to Singapore, please. Anyway, those are our thoughts on the P30 Pro. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Until the next one, take care.